Well, welcome to another edition of Classic Car Chat. You know which car we're doing today if you saw the last episode, because we had it at the Classics for a Cause car show, and we gave you a little glimpse of what it looked like. This beauty right here. But first, as we always do in these programs, I've got a brief history of Oldsmobile for you to watch.
Ransom Eli Olds founded the Olds Motor Vehicle Company in Lansing, Michigan in 1897. In 1899, Samuel Smith, his son Frederick, and Henry Russell bought the company. Samuel Smith became president, named Olds as VP and general manager, and moved it from Lansing to Detroit. In 1901, the company made 635 cars using an early version of the modern assembly line designed by Olds to build the first mass-produced gasoline-powered automobile in the country, the Oldsmobile Model R, or curved dash. Thus, Oldsmobile became the top-selling car company in the U.S. in 1903 and 04. Frederick Smith, who was the secretary-treasurer, clashed frequently with Olds about production and quality. Smith removed Olds from his position in 1903, so in 1904 Olds left the company and started a new one, the REO Motorcar Company. The name was actually intended to be an acronym and pronounced REO. This was to avoid any lawsuits that might have been started by Olds Motor Works. In 1908, Olds Motor Works was purchased by General Motors and joined its biggest competitors, Buick and Cadillac, which were acquired at about the same time. As members of the new family of motor cars, Olds stacked up under the GM umbrella as the middle of the overall GM price range, with Buick as the lower-priced luxury car and Cadillac at the top of the heap. Under Olds was Chevrolet in the low price range, with Pontiac in between Olds and Chevy. GM began platform sharing with Buick and Olds and identified these shared vehicles with the prefix Series, followed by a number. For example, in 1910, the new GM Oldsmobile Limited touring car was Series 23, and the smaller Oldsmobile Autocrat was Series 32. The Limited's retail price in 1910 was $4,600, more than a new three-bedroom house. In 1912, Olds offered the Series 40, a slightly smaller but considerably more affordable car. Introduced during the teens was the Oldsmobile 6, a six-cylinder vehicle that proved popular. From 1914 and through the 20s, with changes being made every year, the 6 stayed popular as an entry-level model with the sedan. It had a little more flexibility and style with 6 different bodies over a range of different prices. In the 1920s, Olds and Buick shared the GM Model B platform, continuing the closeness of appearance between the two that lasted for many years. In the 30s, Olds introduced 2 new body styles, the Series F for a straight 6 engine, and the longer Series L, which was for a straight 8. Olds also continued to be innovative in 1937 with the introduction of the automatic safety transmission, a precursor to the fully automatic transmission. The driver hit the clutch and selected either the low range or high range, and the car shifted automatically between first and second gears in low range and third and fourth gears in high range. Although this transmission was built by Buick, they didn't use it until 1938. In the 1940s, Olds was the first to manufacture the hydromatic transmission, which was the first fully automatic transmission. The big difference between this transmission and the automatic safety transmission? No clutch pedal, and the shift lever moved to the steering column. This was the decade when Olds moved to a new 2-digit model designation. The first digit signifies the body size, and the second the engine style. Engines offered were a straight 6 and a straight 8. So models started as 66 and went to 98. This designation system lasted until 1999. It was also during this decade that the name officially changed from Olds Motor Works to Oldsmobile and was officially christened the Oldsmobile division of General Motors. In 1949, Olds introduced the Rocket engine, which was an overhead valve V8. Buick developed the overhead cam V8 in 1931 and had exclusive use of it until this time. This engine produced far more power than other engines that were popular at this time, and it became very popular quickly with hot rodders and stock car races. The Rocket engine's basic design lasted until Olds redesigned their V8s in the mid-1960s. This 1949 model may have been the first muscle car. In the 1950s, many automobiles were aiming designs and advertising to take advantage of the fledgling space race era with spacey-type names and designs, some of which we have talked about in the past, and Olds was no different. Its engine was the Rocket V8, and its designs were all planned to make the cars resemble jets and rockets, with badges looking like sights from outer space. Grills were designed to look like the intakes of a jet engine, and tail fins to look like the business end of a rocket ship. For 1958, GM restyled all its Highline brands, and they began to look overly chromed. Some nicknamed the Olds models Chromobiles. It wasn't necessarily a compliment. The 1959 redesign had the rocket theme from front to rear, chrome rockets on the front fenders, with body-length fins being the rocket exhausts, ending in a fin-top taillight at the rear. Still lots of chrome as the chrome era was waning.
And that brings us to the era that this car is all about, the 1950s, our beautiful 56 Olds Rocket 88. What a car, what a car. But before we get there, we're just going to finish off the last 4 decades for you very briefly, so you'll know what the complete history of Oldsmobile is by the time we get back here for this.
The 1960s brought in some designs that were new, like Olds introduced their first turbocharged engine, the Turbo Jetfire, and its first modern front-wheel drive vehicle, the Toronado, which was Motor Trend's Car of the Year in 1966. The front end of their vehicles took on the new look of a split grille and changed their rocket logo to some new, more stylized rocket badges. In the 1970s, the Cutlass became Olds' biggest selling car. It was during this decade that one of Olds' biggest problems happened. Because of the popularity of the 350 Rocket V8 engine, they couldn't keep up with the demand, so they started using the Chevy 350 V8 without telling anyone. The problem was the two engines had different designs, so parts for one couldn't be used on the other. Customers that thought they had bought the Rocket engine didn't find out the truth until they bought parts for the Rocket and found they couldn't install them on their engines. This was a public relations nightmare, which resulted in a lawsuit that eventually cost Olds about $8 million. The 1980s saw the best years Olds had since the early 1900s. From 1983 to 85, Olds sold over 1 million cars per year, something that had only been accomplished by Chevy and Ford. The thing to do during this time was downsizing all models due to the oil embargo from the 1970s. Cars needed to be more fuel efficient, so Olds introduced the Forenza in compact-sized sedans, hatchbacks, and station wagons. The 1990s saw a radical change in market performance for Olds. Their sales numbers plummeted by more than 50% from their best years due to foreign imports like Acura, Infiniti, and Lexus. The new models had names like Achieva and Alero. The 90s saw the end of its longest-running model, the 88. It was the longest-running model after the Chrysler New Yorker. It was retired after 50 years with a 50th anniversary edition. The new millennium saw more bad news, declining sales, and an overall lack of profitability. This trend led GM to announce that the Oldsmobile division would be shut down permanently. The very last car off the assembly line was a 2004 Alero GLS Final 500 edition that was signed by everyone who had a hand in building it on April 29, 2004. Oldsmobile, at 107 years old, was America's oldest automobile manufacturer when it ceased production. That title now belongs to Buick.
Well, now that we've finished talking about the history of Olds, this is the beauty. And we've got this beautiful car in this raggedy, nasty-looking frame that's you and me. But 56...
Speak for yourself.
56, Buick, 88...
Oldsmobile.
Oldsmobile, thank you.
That's a different show.
I said Buick, did I do that?
That'll be a different show.
You know what that was? That's the last sentence from the history that we just did, saying that Buick was now the world's oldest car maker, or the country's oldest car maker anyway.
Right.
Yeah, Olds Rocket 88,
Super
what a
88.
car.
Yeah.
It was a great car for what it was. It was small and not too heavy, and it did great in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Until, the Hudson Hornet started to come in and took away some of its glory.
Oldsmobile was positioned great in the mid-1950s. GM had their step-through program. You started out with a Chevy, and you worked your way through the lines. GM was able to geniusly do that, keep the buyers in-house under that umbrella. And Oldsmobile was just one step down from Buick.
Yeah.
Of course, the top of the line was Cadillac.
Yeah.
So as you step through from Chevy to Pontiac to Oldsmobile to Buick up to Cadillac, this was kind of the middle of the road on your way, the journey to Cadillac. And I think Oldsmobile did a really, really nice job making you feel like you were almost there.
Yeah. Well, except for my grandparents who never got anything bigger than a Pontiac anyway.
So there was always that type too, yeah.
Yeah, and,
Yep.
and
Brand
then there were the
loyal.
Chevy people too.
Brand loyalty.
Yes.
We don't have that today. This particular car is a very original, low mileage, I think just under 43,000 original miles. Came from the state of Washington. I don't know if you can see the plate there. It was purchased new just outside Seattle from a gentleman who had just retired from the Pacific Coast Railroad. This was his retirement gift to himself, his first brand new car in 1956. It was handed down through the family to the son, to the grandson. I purchased it from the grandson. So really, and this is my own personal car, I'm the second family owner of this car, which is so cool.
They just don't really do that anymore because most of the cars being built now won't last that long.
No, they're disposable, like the cell phone in my pocket. These cars were built to withstand. You know, I say to people all the time, Oldsmobile didn't necessarily build this car expecting it to still be on the road 60 some odd years later, but they did such a good job building it that they can be.
Yeah.
You can't say that now.
They did such a great job of building them that the model actually lasted for 50 years.
Yeah.
Started in 1949 and they ceased production of them in 1999. Which
The
is
88? Is
the
that what you're referring
88.
to? Yeah.
It was just amazing because that was a very rare thing.
Right.
The only car that had a longer life of any model was Chrysler with the New Yorker.
New Yorker.
And they changed that all the time.
Yep. You're right. The New Yorker went through many different platforms, all the way up to front-wheel drive.
Not this guy. This was a champion from word go, from the get-go.
You know, Chevy gets all the credit nowadays, the Tri-5 Chevys, the 56 Chevy, and this car is basically built on the same platform as that car. But to me, and I love a 56 Chevy, don't get me wrong, but the Buicks, the Oldsmobiles, even the Pontiacs from 1956 are just a prettier car to me. And they don't get the same respect in the collector world as the Chevy does.
And they've got personality,
And they
too.
have personality,
You look at the front end of this thing, and it says there is something there.
Right.
This is the kind of thing that Walt Disney loved because it could make it into an animated thing.
Right.
Then, you know, and the car would talk and the lights would...
It was the space age, so you've got all kinds of space age treatments, you know, the airplane hood ornament, the stars, and the orbit here, for, you know, the space, you know, planet, the orbit, the stars. A lot of cars from this era focused around the atomic age, the space race.
The space race.
And even the Oldsmobile.
Yeah. And some of them even went further than this, because just before they stopped all that was one of the years when Olds redesigned these things, and they had the tail fins that went back, and the back lights, the tail lights, looked like they were the back end of a rocket ship. Late 50s, early 1960s, And they added even more chrome onto it than this one has.
Right.
They used to call them chrome-mobiles.
Yeah.
Here I am reiterating most of my history.
55, 56, 57, very similar. With every year changed though. That's the other thing about cars back then. Every year they made changes to the design, even if it was minor, they made changes. You don't see that anymore. The same car design lasts for 10 years. So 55, 6, and 7, very similar. 58 was kind of a funny year. It was kind of the redheaded stepchild year, I like to call it. It was kind of on its own. And then 59 went to the one you're mentioning with the tail fins. It was a much different looking car, sleek. Those beautiful tail fins and the tail lights,
And another interesting thing was the rocket ship became the actual logo for all Oldsmobile eventually too.
Yeah.
And they had some great, highly stylized badges that I showed during the history segment.
Yeah.
They were just great. And one of them they called the windshield wiper, but I never saw it as that, because it had that round with the slanted line going up from the bottom.
Right, yeah.
I always thought that was the cloud of smoke with the rocket lifting up into space.
I thought it was a rocket as well. Yeah.
And some people like to call it the windshield wiper badge. So
I hadn't heard that before.
well, see,
Interesting.
that's what happens when you do the research.
Yeah, and you did more than I did.
Well, you know these things inside and out. You're the guy.
No, not quite.
You're the car guy on this one. I'm just the historian.
Oldsmobile is known for their engines, the powerful engines, their durability. This car has a 324 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor attached to it, and it put out about 240 horsepower, which wasn't too shabby in 1956.
No, as a matter of fact, Olds was famous for having big engines and fast cars anyway.
Yeah.
Just to go back into the history a little bit, in 1914, there was a race between an Oldsmobile, and in 14, they weren't built like this, and the 20th Century Limited train that ran from Chicago west, and the Oldsmobile beat the train, and it became a very famous oil painting. I can't remember the painter's name right now. I'll put it in a graphic when we edit the thing.
Yeah.
And it just showed how the Oldsmobile, looking, like the flivver that it really was, kind of, pulling ahead of that sleek, huge steamer, the 20th Century Limited, that made those daily trips back and forth from Chicago to Los Angeles, and it never sat still because they kept doing it, but the Olds beat it.
Interesting.
And speaking of media, because I always like to do this anyway when we talk about a car, is to show what kind of media exposure it had.
Yeah.
In 1904, going back that far, there was a song written called "In My Merry Oldsmobile" that people had forgotten about till about 1960, when Mitch Miller had his Sing Along with Mitch program, and that had to be one of the songs they did, And we'll run just the chorus of that so we don't bore you with it.
Come away with me, Lucille, in my merry Oldsmobile. Down the road of life we'll fly, automobiling you and I. To the church we'll swiftly steal, then our wedding bells will peal. You can go as far as you like with me in my merry Oldsmobile.
And one more piece from the media. There was a song written and sung about this car called the Rocket 88 that was cut in a record, a rock and roll song, which a lot of rock and roll historians consider the first actual rock and roll song recording. It was recorded in a studio back before Sun Records, because the producer who produced that, his money from that, for producing it, and his royalties for that, helped him to start Sun Records. So I mean, there's history there too. And this one, the song was called Rocket 88, and the band was actually led by Ike Turner.
Wow.
His saxophonist sang the lyric and played the sax part, and they didn't put that name on the record. They made up a band name for it, but it's a great rock and roll record. Listen to this.
Women have heard of jalopies, you've heard the noise they make, but let me introduce my new Rocket 88. Yes, it's straight, just one way. Everybody likes my Rocket 88. Baby, we'll ride in style, moving all along. modern design, black convertible top, and the gals don't mind. Sporting with me, riding all around town for joy. Blow your horn, Raymond, blow. Step in my rocket and don't be late, baby. We're pulling out about half past 8. Going round the corner and get a fifth. Everybody in my car's gonna take a little nip. Move on out, oozing and cruising along.
Okay, what are we going to do next? Should we take a look at the engine?
You tell me, we can do that. Yeah.
Let's pop the hood and take a look at the
Can't
engine.
remember if this has an inside, you know, I got so many cars. Okay. I can't remember which ones have an inside release and which ones don't. There we go.
And you can even see right on the
valve covers.
Oldsmobile Rocket.
Yep.
The Rocket engine.
It's a very clean, well-sorted engine bay here, very original. That bat wing, they call that sort of a bat wing air cleaner housing for the air intake into the carburetor. This car has power steering, and that's your power steering pump and reservoir.
Nice
that was nice. I mean, and it also has power brakes.
Especially with a car this heavy to have that power steering.
It was fairly new then to have a car with power steering and power brakes. Luxurious. You could even get air conditioning in this car that would have been integrated into the dashboard. This car is not equipped with air conditioning. Sold new in Seattle. I don't think you would need it very often.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty mild climate up there, so yeah.
But this does everything just right. It's like driving in 1956 all over again when you drive this car. Very well.
Of course, I wouldn't recommend men trying to take it to NASCAR now.
No.
You need a bigger engine than this has got now.
That's your 324 cubic inch V8. It's again 240 horsepower, 4-barrel carburetor. Transmission was new for 56. Oldsmobile called it, now get this, the Jetaway.
The Jetaway.
Again, going back to that space race.
Yeah.
Space and sky and rockets. The Jetaway replaced the hydromatic transmission, automatic transmission from the year before. This car has a park setting in the shift indicator. Year prior to that, you didn't have a park setting. You put it in neutral and used the handbrake. Or, getting a little technical, but a fun fact, those transmissions prior to this, to put it in park and lock the transmission like a park setting would have done, after you shut the car off, if you put the shift indicator into reverse, it would lock the transmission in sort of a park setting. Well, a lot of people don't know that.
That was one of the things I learned about using a standard transmission when I was taking driving lessons.
Yeah.
You park on a hill, you put it in reverse because it won't roll backwards.
Right.
You put
if
it into first, it'll do that.
I still do that, even on little inclines out here. The transmission will lock itself. And the earlier ones, you would put it into reverse to lock it into a park. This car has an actual park setting, which was new for this car in 1956, and they called it the Jetaway. Fun fact.
Well, they like to use the jet indication. I mean, that was part of the space race thing,
right,
too.
Right,
So.
Again, the space, everything was about the race to space, and everybody was in awe over, getting to the moon, getting out of space, rocket ships, and Oldsmobile kind of took it and ran with it, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yep, and they did.
Yep.
It lasted a long time. I mean, that logo continued all the way up till 2004 when they ceased production.
Yeah, with the rocket ship straight up. Yeah.
Right in the middle of that split grill.
Yep. And I think it was on the end when they ended the car. I think the Alero or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right in the airbag steering wheel. The emblem was right there in front of you every day you drove the car.
Yeah.
Right
I've seen that on other rolls too. You know.
Yeah. Yep. And a throwback to its heritage.
Yeah. Even though its heritage is a lot older than the space race.
What was it exactly?
What?
The beginning?
Olds became part of GM in 1908.
08.
And before that, they were making them on their own. And
The curved dash Oldsmobile is
that was
kind of
in
iconic.
1904.
I was going to say that's early.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was like the first assembly line car.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't
Not mass produced like the Model T, but
no. Well, it wasn't that kind of assembly line. It was one of those things where they put the car on the wagon and just wheeled it from one station to another, and instead of having the line being automatic and the guys having to keep up with the line. God help them if that line ever got going too fast.
yeah. Do you want me to close this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody who's ever seen Charlie Chaplin, Modern Times, knows what can happen if they speed up the assembly line. Of course, that was just little parts that were going through there.
And also, I Love Lucy. The
chocolate.
chocolate.
The chocolate factory.
I Love Lucy would have driven this car. This car would have been an I Love Lucy. In fact, the car they drive cross country, they all go to California.
Yeah.
It's a Pontiac Star Chief convertible.
I thought
and it's basically this car in a Pontiac platform, Pontiac version.
Yeah. Well,
and
they
it was
were
a Star
always,
Chief convertible.
They were always complaining about having to spend too much money anyway, so they wouldn't have gone for a really nice car. They would have got the cheapest thing that they
Just
could
above
get.
Chevy, though.
If you remember that section of the series there, the first car that came back to take them to California was an old flivver that Fred Mertz bought
for like
at a
$75
junkyard
or something. Yes, that's right. It was a Cadillac.
Really?
He said it was a Cadillac. It looked like, very early Cadillac.
Well, it was a big enough car.
It was a big open touring car. Remember that? And it kind of falls apart there on the street. And the Pontiac Star Chief is behind them.
Which is something they stole from Jack Benny.
You're right. I didn't think of that.
Well, that just came to me.
I'm glad you came by today.
Shall we show off the inside?
Sure.
Okay, let me open the door over here for our super cameraman to get in and actually see things. I mean, the interior on this thing looks beautiful.
So
it looks almost like new.
There was an 88 and there was a Super 88. This is the Super 88, which was a step up from the 88. So you got this really cool fabric, this two-tone fabric. This is original upholstery, by the way, from 1956. And the Super 88 came with this really cool fabric, more chrome on the dash, padded dashboard in 1956. That was unheard of.
Yeah.
Or you had to pay extra. And I guess you did pay extra because you paid extra for the Super 88 to get the padded dashboard. And this car has the optional clock over there, which also acts as the radio speaker. The radio speaker surrounds the clock. And I love how the dash sort of mirrors, the speedometer opening mirrors the clock and radio speaker.
Well, that shows that somebody had an idea that they were actually designing something that people might enjoy.
And also, I wonder if to be able to fit these cars for overseas, selling them overseas with right-hand drive. I wondered that sometimes if they designed the dash because I'm assuming they sold these in Europe, right-hand drive. I don't know for a fact, but I'm thinking if that was the case, that might have been some of the reason for that. You could obviously switch these two pods pretty easily.
That's kind of hard to figure because most of the vehicles, that I have seen in foreign films were always left-hand drives, the American cars.
Yeah. I've seen some right-hand drive American cars over there, but from this vintage, but rare. And I would assume you had to have some bucks over there to buy one.
Well, you figure if Rolls-Royce could come over here and make a left-hand drive, we could go over there and make a right-hand drive for them.
Right. The original selling salesman's business card is still in the glove box of this car. Maybe we can get a shot of that before we close out.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's provenance right there. That's good stuff. That's stuff car collectors really like
Right.
too.
That's why I kept this car, because it has such a story with it.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned it before in some of the other car chats we've done. You don't always get that story. Every car has a story that survived this long.
Yep.
This one, I happen to know the story, and to me, that makes it more valuable to me.
Yeah. I got to tell you, the fabric in this stuff is wearing is better as well, if not better than the rest of
I
the
know.
car.
It's like your grandmother's living room.
Yeah. And we have do we need a key for the trunk, or?
I believe we
there-
do.
Oh, there is that.
Yeah. I'll get it for you.
Just hold in there, folks. We're just going to move the key from the ignition to the trunk so we can show you what the trunk space looked like. Because a lot of these cars had a lot more space in the trunk than
Yes.
anybody gets nowadays, which is why so many people go for things like the SUVs and the crossovers, the minivans.
Okay, maybe not.
Up.
Just bear with me.
Well, one of them was
There we go.
one of them was the ignition key, and the other one was the lock key. Ah,
there you go.
they left the hat behind too.
See
or
the hat?
is that yours?
That's part of my my display.
Oh, I love this. You've got the shop manual.
The shop
here.
manual, and this is the original dealer. This would have been the dealer book that the dealers would have had to order the car. You could pick out your fabric samples.
Oh, there's the fabric
yeah,
right there.
very similar to it. Yeah, this is yeah, I guess so. I can't. I don't
It's
have my
not
glasses on,
not
but-
quite as shiny.
right.
But it's
It depended on the model, and
Yeah.
all the Oldsmobile models are in here. And it's funny how they tout safety. On one of the pages, they tout the safety. Rocket engine Oldsmobile.
yeah.
Yeah, they did. I love this book. I love having stuff like the styling accents. So the optional things you could buy, the full wheel covers, windshield sprayers were an option. Windshield washers.
Here's the trunk logo. And
There you go,
from
yeah.
from the back of the trunk
Yeah.
right there.
Invite you to take the wheel. Yeah, it's
And
just,
so naturally they have tires right
claw.
next to it there.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, there's the speedometer that we just saw actually in the dash a minute ago.
Jetaway Hydromatic Drive, the new Hydromatic for '56. They called it the Jetaway. Yeah, that's a great book. That would have been the salesman's. Every dealership would have had one of those, because back then dealers, as you know, were small. Every downtown had a Ford dealer and an Oldsmobile and a Studebaker, and they might have had 3 or 4 cars on the lot. And then they sold gas and repairs. If you wanted one to suit your needs, you ordered the car.
Yeah.
A lot of people ordered cars back then, the colors they wanted. This is the book the salesman would have gone through with the consumer to order their car. And I got to assume that this may be a situation where the gentleman ordered this car and probably sat with one of those books back in 1955 or 6 when he ordered this to pick out this particular car.
Yeah, and about the time I was recognizing that cars came from dealerships, they were at the point where they were starting to put a lot of them on the lots too.
Right. Nowadays, dealers have so much inventory that you really don't have to order.
Yeah. Let's just take a peek into the shop manual here too.
Shows you how to do everything.
How to rotate your tires.
Yeah. Spark plug
It's
changes.
really quite something till I open
Yeah.
up to that. And
Yeah.
Well,
Everything
there's
from
more.
rebuilding the engine and transmission to rotating your tires.
unless you had one of those 1970s versions of this car that didn't have the Rocket engine and had the Chevy engine, and you went out and bought the Rocket parts, which wouldn't fit on that
That would have
engine.
been the late 70s, yeah. GM really kind of fumbled during that period.
Yeah. Well, they paid dearly for it
Yeah,
too.
they
I mean, $8 million and lost.
And we won't talk about the diesels from the early 80s.
You know, they actually called the diesel engine versions Rocket engines too.
Did they really?
Yeah, I saw that. I
didn't
just
know.
saw that the other day for the first time.
Huh. Interesting.
Here we are, the tail of the rocket ship here.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
the exhaust.
More jet accents,
Yeah.
with the thrusters. Yep. This color is called terracotta. Oldsmobile called this terracotta. And there's the original dealer, I call them brag tags.
The dealer badge.
The dealer badge from 1956, quarter Oldsmobile in Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah.
And like I said, I have the salesman's business card from there, still in the glove box. Slam them back
And
there.
here's one of those early model badges, which changed back up in the in between the 70s and the 80s when they had those others that I was talking about a little earlier. But that's where it all started, was right there.
Yep.
And Olds just kept that rocket ship theme going for the rest of its life.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. The chrome is well preserved. The paint, this is original paint. It's got some patina, I call it, but it's original from 1956. Cars I found that come from the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, are preserved so beautifully. A lot of original cars out there because they don't have the harsh seasons. They have winter, they have summer, but it's not harsh, blaring heat. It's not freezing cold with snow and road salt. It's more temperate. And it really helps save the cars. Down south, the bodies don't rust, but the interiors get scorched from the heat.
Yeah.
You know, up in the north, the interiors stay nice, but the outside rusts.
Yeah.
And
As
the
long as you're
Pacific
not right on
Northwest
the-
doesn't get any of that.
As long as you're not right on the coast, it doesn't get the salt.
Right.
so.
There are exceptions. Of course, there are exceptions, but for the most part, cars from out there I've found are incredibly well preserved. I love an original car that's unrestored. Even if it's got some patina, I'd rather see it original than a repaint.
You know, there's something else I just realized that I had to cut from the history because it was just getting way too long. Is the cutouts on the fenders for the wheels. They called it a flyaway cut because it doesn't come down and just it has that
it gives it that
slope off
speed,
there.
a look of
Gives it-
speed.
oh yeah. And that was something that started on the Rocket cars and just got carried over into everything that they did back then.
And then you've got the backseat passenger's got a vent window as well as the front seat passenger. So you could vent those windows, presumably for cigarette smoke. Because everybody smoked back then.
Yeah, everybody smoked back then. And it's funny, I was just watching a video the other day from Russia of this guy taking his family on vacation. And they were sitting in the car during a rain with the rear vent window in that car open, and the kid had his cup underneath the inside part of the window, catching the water that was running down. I don't imagine anybody around here would have done anything like that.
Kids couldn't be bothered for that today.
But it was a good way to get airflow through the car too.
It was.
Because you
A
get it
flow-through
directed.
ventilation,
You get it directed in this way, and it just goes right out that
Right.
way, and it just kind of cleans out the air entirely in the car, probably fairly quickly too.
Yeah. GM it sort of came out with their own flow-through ventilation system in the late 1960s, around 67 or 68, where you could set something on the HVAC control panel, and it would open ventilation on the dash, and they actually had vents in the back below the rear window to
that was when they started
flow
calling
through the
it
car and flush
airflow
out.
ventilation.
Right,
Because
airflow
it came
ventilation.
from the dashboard and went out the rear.
Went out the rear. Yep. That proved to be a little troublesome with water leaks, I believe. So, water leaking in the back, so in the trunk. But it was a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, well, are we finished?
I think we're about done. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us again this week with a Classic Car Chat. We have some plans for some other locations that we might go
little
and to
surprises
see if we
coming.
can find some other cars.
Yep.
And
There's always something new here.
always something new here. Not to mention, with the way cars are being talked about so much these days, there are a lot more car shows around.
Yeah.
So we're going to see if we can get into a couple more of those and talk to some people that had maybe some kind of cars that we wouldn't necessarily find here, like Rolls Royces or who knows
You probably
what.
wouldn't find one of those in here,
Yeah.
but I'd love to see one at a show.
A Bugatti.
Yeah.
The Speed Demons is one of those, I've forgotten which model it was now, that seems to be like the fastest car on earth right now. But
Everybody's vying for speed once again, like they did in the late 60s.
so much for conserving gasoline, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for watching, and tune in again to Classic Car Chat. We hope you enjoyed this show.